6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to Nationals Park. Kevin Franzen, Mark Zuckerman here as we get set for the Nationals announcing the new manager, Blake Butera. Mark, big day for Paul Taboni and the entire staff here introducing.
First major move of the Paul Taboni era, as we know. It's been a little while, 18 days since the actual contract was signed. Why is it taking this long? Well, because his wife just had a baby on the same day that they hired and that he signed the contract. So priorities here.
What
Need
came
a little
first?
time to get ready.
What came first, the baby or the signing, the hiring? We got to find that out. That's a big thing today.
I was close. I heard it was very close between the two.
For Nationals fans, for baseball fans all around, Blake Butera, 33 years old, such a huge, huge day for the entire organization. As we said it to Dan Coco.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. I'm Nationals broadcaster Dan Kolko, and I'm honored to be here on yet another exciting day for this Nationals franchise. We've had a couple of these lately. I'd like to welcome everyone who's with us here at Nationals Park, as well as those watching on Nationals.com, Masson, and MLB Network. Earlier this month, Blake Butera was officially named the 8th manager in Washington Nationals history. The day before the announcement, Blake and his wife Caroline welcomed their first child, Blair. They say the birth of your child marks the best day of your life. Imagine finding out you're getting a big league managerial job that very same week. That'll do, huh? Needless to say, there's been a lot going on lately for the Butera family, and we're so glad to have all three of them here in Washington today for Blake's formal introduction. Joining Blake, Caroline, and Blair, I'd also like to extend a special welcome to several other members of Blake and Caroline's families. We're so happy to have you all here as part of the Nationals family. Congratulations. We're also joined today by several members of the Lerner, Cohen, and Tannenbaum families, as well as several Washington Nationals founding partners. And joining Blake at the dais is Nationals President of Baseball Operations, Paul Taboni. So Paul, it's my pleasure to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. When we set out to find our manager, our goal was to find not only a great, ambitious baseball mind, but an even better person. We wanted someone whose character and values aligned with ours and whose experiences fit our organizational goals. As you've heard me say many times over the course of the last 6 weeks, I'm a strong believer that you win with people, and Blake's character and ability to connect with everyone across the baseball spectrum is second to none. I'm excited to welcome him, his wife Caroline, their baby Blair, and the rest of their family to Washington, D.C., and I look forward to executing our vision together. With that, I'd like to officially introduce you to the next manager of the Washington Nationals, Blake Butera.
Thank you, gentlemen. And Blake, now I'd like to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Paul, thanks for the great words. I'm incredibly honored, humbled, excited to be the next manager of the Washington Nationals. It was clear during this process that this organization, this city are really special. This was somewhere my family and I immediately felt like we can make home. I want to thank the Lerner, Cohen, and Tannenbaum families as well as Paul Taboni and the rest of the baseball ops group. From my very first conversations, it was evident that their values align with mine, that this is a place built around people, trust, and doing things the right way. I really enjoyed the process over the last few weeks of getting to know everybody in this entire organization. I know I wouldn't be sitting here today without the support of a lot of people. First and foremost, my wife Caroline and our baby Blair. Caroline knows how demanding this game can be and how much time we've spent away from each other during it, and I can't thank her enough, and I couldn't do this without her, so thank you. To my parents and siblings, my mom driving all of us around to all the games at different towns, and my dad coaching at least one of us at all times. Don't know how they did it, but just want to say thank you. To my siblings, you know, from the countless backyard games we played, wiffle ball and basketball and football that somehow never felt fair. Thanks for continuing to challenge me, but also supporting me along the way. The fact that you're all here today on a Monday, a work day, with several kids leaving work and kids behind, to be here is just another example of how supportive you've been every step along the way. So thank you. To my wife's family, who made the long drive up and back to make sure Blair could be here today for this special day, thank you. It means the world. I also want to take a moment to thank Eric Neander and the entire Tampa Bay Rays organization. I was there for 11 years and couldn't say thank you enough to them for what they've done for me and my growth and also our family. It's a special place. You'll hear me say the word culture a lot, and I don't want to use it lightly. The culture there is real. It's special. It's what makes that place great. And my family and I knew that if we were going to leave, it would have to be for somewhere that was special as well. And getting to know Paul, the ownership group here, as well as the rest of our baseball operations group, this place is on the way to building something special, and I felt that from day one. As we move forward, our identity is going to start with character. I believe true leadership is built on real relationships. Relationships that create unity, clarity, and a shared purpose. And all that begins with accountability. For myself, for our staff, for every player that wears this Nationals jersey, we're going to hold each other to a standard every single day. We're going to be committed to our process and a daily standard of performance. That means focusing on improvement and excellence one day at a time, trusting that consistency is going to help us build something sustainable, not just for 1 year, but for several years ahead. We're going to be committed to our process. On the field, you can expect a team that plays with intent. We're going to be fundamentally strong. We're going to do things the right way. We're going to play the game the right way and handle all the small details. We want our fans to feel connected to the way we play and to take pride in the identity that we show every night. DC is an incredible sports city. It's passionate, it's knowledgeable, and they're hungry for a winner. We're in this together, and our commitment as a staff is to represent this city with pride. We want to play a brand of baseball that reflects the toughness, competitiveness, and the spirit of the people who support us. We're currently building an elite coaching staff. In my opinion, the best coaches are teachers, mentors, and leaders that are able to get the most out of every single player in this organization. We want to create an environment where every player feels challenged yet supported, and that's what we're building right now. I'm so excited to get to work. The group of players in this clubhouse are special. I've had the chance to get to know a lot of them over the past few weeks, and I've been blown away by their character and their hunger to be great. I can't wait for our fans to see how special this team's going to be, and we're going to do everything we can to make them proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. All right, at this time, we'll take questions from the media. We have Mauricio and Claire on each side of the room with microphones, so please raise your hand. I'll mention the outlet you're from and your name, and we'll get started. Well, Jessica first.
Hi, Blake. Jessica Camerato from MLB.com. Welcome and congratulations. Obviously, the day you were hired was a very big day for you and your family. Can you take us through that day, where you were when you got the phone call, and what you were thinking?
There was a lot that happened that day. First and foremost, I mean, my wife, she's a trooper. We had our first baby on the same day, had the chance to be named the manager of the Nationals the same day, of course, and it was a whirlwind, and I don't think it was anything that we could have planned or predicted. But it was also such a special day, and my parents were there as well, and we were very fortunate just to have our loved ones around us and be able to celebrate together.
Andrew?
Hey Blake, Andrew Golden with the Washington Post. You were a senior director of player development with the Rays. Did you always desire to want to get back into managing, and how did you know that this was the right fit and the right opportunity for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I obviously enjoyed my time managing with the Rays, and then when they, brought this next opportunity up to me, it was something that was obviously on a broader spectrum with a lot more players, a lot more staff members to oversee. I think it was something that gave me a much better perspective of how to build an organization from the ground up and what goes into creating a winning culture, creating a winning team, creating a winning organization. And I think when this next opportunity came about, I always love being on the field. I love the competition. I love being with the guys every day. So this was a no-brainer.
Hey, Blake, Spencer Nussbaum from the Washington Post. Can you walk us through what the interview process looked like and if you expected to get a managerial job this season?
Yeah. To the second part of that question, I didn't have a timeline set on when I expected or wanted to be a manager by. To the first part, Eric Neander gave me a call. I think it was a Tuesday morning, and said that Paul asked to interview me or talk to me for the managing position. And it was a few weeks of a process, and I had a chance to talk with Paul. I've had a chance to talk with a lot of people in the ops group. And then it was kind of throughout that process where I realized that this was somewhere that I could see myself and my family based off of the values that they have, and they align with mine. And that was first and foremost, most important to me and my family before the actual position. And with that, yeah, I think it was another thing that stood out to me was that instead of coming up here, one thing that was struck home for Caroline and myself was just that Paul did not want me to miss the birth of our first child. So he came to the city where we live in Raleigh, and that was just super special to us, the fact that he was able to put aside the traditional process of interviewing and wanted to make sure we put our family first.
Hey Blake, Bobby Blanco, MassonSports.com. To piggyback off of the player developmental side, I know you were a manager in the minor leagues for a little bit with the Rays. What did your experience working in player development do to kind of enforce or maybe enhance your thought process as a manager?
Yeah, I think when you look at the whole player development process, right, there's a lot that goes into it, from the acquisition of players to creating plans for players to improve and what their timeline looks like to get to the major leagues. So I think just the whole broad and global outlook of a player's process and a player's journey kind of helped make it a little bit easier transitioning.
Chelsea, also from the Washington Post. Welcome.
Thank you.
Someone said to me last week that managing a big league team at 33 is one thing, but managing a minor league team at 25 is something else. What did you learn from that experience about how to lead people who are, at least in terms of age, your peers, and what's important in terms of, maintaining the right kind of thing?
Yeah, I think the best advice I've gotten is just to be yourself, right? It's like at the end of the day, when you talk with players, when you work with players, I think the last thing they look at is how old or young somebody might be. I think what's most important to them is, do you care about them as a person first, and are you going to do everything you can to help them become the best version of themselves, both on and off the field? And I think people can accomplish that in different ages and different experiences, and I think that's most important, in my opinion.
David?
Hey, Blake, David Aldridge with The Athletic. Welcome. Tampa has consistently been able to stay competitive, do more with less maybe over the years. And I just wonder, what is transferable from that organization to here in your view?
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier, just the culture is the biggest thing, right? I think when you create an environment where players feel challenged at all times, but also supported, is something that's really important and something that Tampa Bay does a great job of. They're always going to be upfront with their players in terms of what their deficiencies might be, but there's also an art to it where you don't just tell a player what they need to get better at. You tell them where we view them, where we think they can get to, and then make sure we support the heck out of them to get them there.
Jake?
Jake Mintz with Yahoo Sports. How's it going, Blake?
What's up, Jake?
I'm just piggybacking off of the question about your age. In what ways do you see that being a potential asset for you in a big league clubhouse, and what challenges might that present as you start this new opportunity?
Yeah, I think along the same lines, just like building relationships first, right? Where make sure you get to know each one of these players. I didn't play in the major leagues, but I was in their position not too long ago. So I think understanding that just the pressures that go into playing this sport and playing it at a high level, whether it's family, there's a lot of stuff off the field that players are going through that can add to the stress of succeeding and playing this game. And I think just understanding what they're going through and meeting them where they're at and making sure they know they have someone they can always go to is really important.
Over here, Blake. Hi, Mark Zuckerman from Mass, and Jake actually stole my question, so I'll ask you about the coaching staff instead. I know we have 2 names that are out there already, and I know you're working to hire more. For you, what's the balance between wanting to bring in experience that you don't have personally versus finding others who might have the same kind of youthful and minor league experience and teaching kind of experience?
Yeah, I don't think we really set out to either hire for or not for experience. I think what was first and foremost was we wanted to make sure we brought in people that align with our values. We wanted people that would help hold each other accountable, would come in with a tremendous amount of a work ethic, and make sure they were in this thing for the right reasons. At the end of the day, our job is to help these players get better and create something that's sustainable for a really long time and successful. Regardless of age, I think that was most important to me when we were building out a staff, is to make sure there's people in here that are going to help our players reach their ultimate potential.
Hey, Blake, congratulations. My name is Eric Flack. I work with the local CBS here, Channel 9. One more on the age thing. I wonder, first and foremost, do you think about it as much as people like me do? And do you approach a conversation holding somebody accountable, not playing the game that you want it to be played, with somebody who is 3 years your senior as opposed to 3 years your junior?
Yeah, to your point about the tough conversations, I think looking at it from that lens, you create the relationship first. I know I've said that a few times, but it's really important to me to create the relationship, create the trust, so where player, regardless of age, experience, understands where you're coming from with a certain message. And I think, one thing for me as well is I've tried to put myself in positions and situations where I've coached or worked with players that were, future Hall of Famers or players that had played one day professionally, right? And I think some experiences in winter ball and then also the World Baseball Classic with players like Vinny Pasquantino and Matt Harvey, and then, working alongside Mike Piazza, like gaining their respect was really important to me. So I think looking back at that, it's, you create the relationships first and make sure they understand you care about them and are going to do whatever you can to help them succeed.
Hey, Blake, it's Byron Kerr from Associated Press. Welcome to DC. You mentioned a lot about your dad being your coach when you were younger. Can you talk about some of your mentors and coaches that kind of influenced you to become a manager, maybe a story or a moment that you're like, oh boy, I really want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, my dad definitely coached me for a long time when I was a kid and instilled a lot of the work habits and values that I have today. As I get older, and I think part of the reason why I didn't start listing them in my intro is because I know I'm going to forget somebody. But there's a long list. I think the ones that come to mind right away, Bill Evers with the Rays, Mitch Lukovich with the Rays, the late Jim Hoff with the Rays. And then you look at, Craig Albernaz, who's just hired as the Baltimore Orioles manager. He's made a lasting impact on my life and taught me a lot. He's very transparent and honest with his players and with his staff. And I think that's a lesson that I've probably learned that's stuck with me the most, is just at the end of the day, players and staff around you want you to be transparent. They want to know where they stand. And sometimes those conversations can be difficult and those messages can be tough, but I think it's important.
Hi, Heather McDonough over here. Heather McDonough, NBC4, local NBC. Welcome to Washington, Blake. Paul looks a little bored over there, so I'm just kidding. This is for honestly both of you. When you guys initially, and maybe we'll start with Paul and then Blake, when you guys met and started this process, was there kind of an aha moment where the both of you were saying to yourselves, okay, I think this is a partnership that could work? What was it and what stuck out about those conversations?
Okay, let me start with maybe like the first aha moment, which was we had Blake's name circled. I don't even think I had called Eric Neander to ask permission to interview him, and I got a call from Mike Piazza, and he basically said like, "Hey, I have no idea what you guys are doing with your search, but like, there's this guy that you got to interview," and he mentioned Blake's name, which I was thinking to myself like, okay, if Mike Piazza's thinking that to himself, given his background and his experiences, everything like. We were kind of thinking it a little bit, and then the more we dug on Blake, like, and I've said this before, but it doesn't matter whether it was the first year analyst or the person that's been in baseball for 50 years, they all have a tremendous amount of respect and trust for Blake, which is something I thought a lot about. We thought a lot about over the course of the whole process, and then I think just. Blake mentioned visiting him down in Raleigh. Like, I think there's something to be said for spending a whole day together, right? And like, you're kind of like towards the end of the day, we're sitting in the car together, and I was thinking to myself, like, I could probably spend another 2 hours in this car, you know, and it's like 11 p.m. or whatever it was. It's a small thing, but in my opinion, it's actually a really big thing because we're going to be spending so much time around each other, right? Like, if you're itching to get out of that car, like, there's probably something up, right? So, you know, that was, I'm sure there were probably 10 aha moments in between that first one and maybe the last one as part of the process, but those are two that stick out.
Yeah, I think for me, I know I mentioned the part about coming to Raleigh and making sure that I didn't miss the birth of Blair. But also with that, I mean, from the first step, like his Paul's press conference, right? Like when he talked about his vision, his values, what he wants to help create and build here, from the jump, before they even asked permission on me, just being a baseball fan, watching the press conference was something where I was like, I can work alongside that guy.
Scott?
Blake, Scott Abraham, ABC7. First of all, congratulations on the new job. You'll learn this is one of the more passionate and loyal fan bases in Major League Baseball. They've been very patient. The reality is this team has not been in the playoffs since 2019. So as you come into this situation, do you view this as a rebuild situation, or can you see as a win now mode type deal?
Yeah, I think going back to Paul's vision, right, and believing in his process as we build this thing out and start it with the foundation. There's already a really impressive group of young talent in the building right now. You know, as I mentioned, I think they're really good right now, but there's also another gear they can get to. And part of our job as we build out the staff is to make sure we surround them with people that are going to help them hit that second gear. And I think it's a really good group already, and I'm pretty excited about what's already in this clubhouse.
Blake, what does it mean to you to be a major league manager, both on a personal level and then what it means with your responsibility within the organization?
I think when you get into coaching and you get into this industry, I think, you know, a major league manager, if you're a field staff member, is like the ultimate goal you want to get to. And I understand it's a big responsibility and there's a lot on your plate. But at the end of the day, it's something, you know, you feel like you will work towards your entire career. And I think are you ever going to be quote unquote ready for something? I don't know, but I feel pretty prepared based off of a lot of previous experiences and a variety of different backgrounds where I'm ready for this opportunity.
This one's for both of you. I know it's been only 2 weeks and a lot's happened, but how has your relationship grown since the hiring and as you guys look at the coaching staff and the roster as a whole moving forward into this offseason?
I think this is the first time we've been together live since the interview stage. So we actually haven't spent that much time around each other, but we've been talking every day. And more than anything, like I think I've just come to realize, like, hey, what you think you're getting in the interview process, in my opinion, like it's been however long it's been, but we're getting right, which is Blake is an unbelievable teammate. He hit on it, I think, in his opening remarks, but like the importance of relationships is such a huge part of all of this. And it's one thing to talk about our relationship, but it's also another thing to observe Blake creating relationships with everyone else in the group, which to me is like kind of, a strong indicator of like how it's going to take place for the rest of the organization that he's yet to spend time with, right? So, and that was a huge reason why we liked Blake in the first place, is because we trusted that he was going to be able to do that.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I think just, Paul mentioned we haven't spent a ton of time together in person just because he's given us some time to kind of get our family started, which is really, appreciative from our end. But spent a lot of time on the phone together, and especially as we're building out the staff together, and I think just his vision and believing in kind of what we're trying to create here it's been awesome.
All right, time for two more. We'll Spencer and then Jake.
Yeah, this is for Blake. In Paul's introductory presser, he had mentioned melding the art of coaching with data and analytics. What is the role of data in a Blake Butera managed club?
Fully believe and buy into data and information and analytics. It's a huge part of our decision-making process, right? Like there's a really good group here in place that's going to help us come up with processes in terms of what we're going to do leading into games, and then also building a staff around us that's going to do a good job of making sure we're all on the same page and prepared each night to help kind of carry those things out.
You haven't been in a dugout now for 3 seasons. I'm curious, just for you, what excites you about getting back into that specific role?
I think there's 2 things. One, I think the competition, right? When you're in it, when you're in the dugout every night, you feel the competition and the desire to win. I think secondly, one thing that I missed the most was when you're with this group every day for 6, 7, 8 months, it's never a smooth ride. There's always going to be ups and downs and highs and lows for every player in that clubhouse, and building those relationships and seeing players at their lowest of lows and then helping them through some of those things and seeing them ultimately get back to the top throughout the end of the year, there's no more rewarding feeling than that.
All right. Well, thank you guys. We're going to call up ownership, take a couple photos with Paul and Blake. TVs, if you could go please set up in the Terra Club. We'll bring the guys over for some stand-ups. And then beat writers will bring the guys over to you guys as well after the photos. So thank you guys for your time, and thank you.
So there you have it. Blake
This is